Welcome to the Ohio Statehouse. We often refer to it as the People's House. It is our grand state capitol, and it has been operational since 1857. Construction began in 1839, and it was finally officially completed in 1861. So we're standing here in this 151-year-old building in what we refer to as the Grand Rotunda, the centerpiece of our beautiful Capitol building. In fact, there were 7 different architects on the project throughout the 22 years that it took to build, and they disagreed on a number of things. However, they all agreed on essentially the same 2 things: that the building should be massive enough to house all 3 branches of state government, and that the most beautiful room should be for the people of Ohio. The designers actually looked to the Greeks. This is done in Greek Revival architecture, and it was truly built as a temple of democracy. Ohio being a very, very young state, they wanted to proclaim to the rest of the country, and the rest of the world for that matter, that we were going to be politically important, and we believed in the democratic ideals that the Greeks essentially began. So it was finally completed just at the beginning of the American Civil War. So it's done with a cupola on the exterior. We're one of a handful of state houses that does not have a dome on the top, and it was truly designed to be a cupola because Greeks did not use domes. They used the flat ceiling or the flat roof as the cupola. And it's said that domes on state houses did not become prevalent until post-Civil War, because all of the troops were marched through Washington, D.C. as the dome of the U.S. Capitol was being completed. And that was just an awe-inspiring image. So many architects from the west, further west, they used that dome idea to design those state houses. 120 feet above our heads is a stained glass seal of Ohio, as it was in 1861. And as you gaze upon that seal, you notice the canal boat, because Ohio was a big part of the Erie Canal system. To this day, the seal has changed several times throughout the decades. However, the major parts of the seal still exist, with the hills from Adena and Chillicothe and the sunrise. But as you come down to the floor has a very interesting pattern. There are nearly 5,000 pieces of individually cut marble, but the center of the room is the most interesting. It's said that it's a key to American history, as it was when the floor was laid in about 1858. The center circle houses 13 individual pieces of cut stone or cut marble, and it's said that those represent the 13 original colonies. And then around that are 32 points to the starburst, because there were 32 states in the Union when the floor was laid. And that last band that binds all those states together represents the U.S. Constitution. The State House actually opened for business in 1857. The ground floor, first floor, and most of the building was completed, minus the center of the State House. As the height grew, so did the time that it took to complete. So the legislature, both the House and the Senate, actually moved into their chambers in 1857, as did the governor. He moved into the brand new governor's office, and that first governor to reside in this building was Salmon P. Chase. And Governor Chase actually went on to become Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of the Treasury, and later became the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. I'd like to now take you inside the governor's office and take a look at the history that resides in this space, not only connected to some of Ohio's historic governors and our current governor as well, but also to Abraham Lincoln. So let's take a look. It was in this room that Abraham Lincoln came to visit the sitting governor at the time, Governor Dennison. It was February 13th, 1861, and he was in this State House sitting across from Governor Dennison at this very desk behind me. And it was in this room that he was delivered a telegram. And Lincoln opened the telegram, and it had indicated that the Electoral College had met and had ratified the voice of the people. So he was truly the president-elect of the United States. The oath of office used to be taken in March. So Lincoln was on his way from Springfield, Illinois to Washington, D.C., and he had stopped along the way. And in many cases, that same route during his funeral was retraced. So Abraham Lincoln was once again here at the Ohio Statehouse when his funeral train came to Columbus on April 29, 1865, and Abraham Lincoln did lay in state in the Grand Rotunda for 6.5 hours. And in that short amount of time, 50,000 people filed past the president's open casket. It was a phenomenal sight to see the numbers of people that came by horse and buggy in that day to pay their respects to the slain president. Throughout the Ohio Statehouse, we have 8 of our hearing rooms named after Ohio's 8 presidents. Ohio sometimes referred to as the mother of presidents. And here we are standing in the Grant hearing room. Grant served as president from 1869 to 1877. Ohioans loved General Grant. He was a hero in all aspects. Of course, Ohio was part of the Union and really believed that slavery should not take place. And when Grant won the victory and the surrender took place in Virginia, he was proclaimed a hero. In each of our presidential hearing rooms, we've partnered with the Ohio Historical Society, and there are artifacts that are associated with each of the presidents that reside in a secure case. And many of these artifacts are very, very interesting. For example, here in the Grant hearing room, we actually have a cigar that was smoked by President Grant, and it's on display for the public to see. Now we're standing in the William McKinley presidential hearing room, and this is on the Ohio House of Representatives side. And William McKinley, another great president that came from Ohio, and this particular president also served as governor. McKinley was president from 1897 to 1901, and he is one of the 4 U.S. presidents that was assassinated in office. He was actually in a receiving line in Buffalo, New York at the Pan American Exposition. William McKinley oftentimes wore a red carnation on his lapel while working as governor and again as the president. It said that a little girl about the age of 7 or 8 asked the president for his flower. He took it off and gave it to her. About 4 people later was the assassin who shot him at point-blank range. And he actually went on to live for several more days, but infection had overcome the wound, and he died shortly thereafter. So when the legislature here in Ohio found out about his death, they immediately began crafting a bill creating the red carnation as the state flower. And it's a memorial to this great president and great Ohio governor. On the grounds of the Ohio Statehouse is a monument dedicated to William McKinley. And it's interesting where it's erected. It's erected at the exact place where it said that he would come to work every day, crossing High Street, and he'd turn around and he'd wave goodbye to his wife for the day. She was always in the second-story window, waving goodbye to her husband. And then he, of course, would come into the State House and go to work. It's a great monument to him, but oftentimes we don't take a look at the other 2 components of the monument. On one side of the monument is an adult male with a young boy, and he represents prosperity, and he's ushering youth into prosperity, because it was William McKinley that was president during the Industrial Revolution, and this country became very prosperous. On the other side of the monument is an adult woman with a young girl, and she represents peace, and she's ushering youth into peace. So we're very proud of that monument, and it's in a grand location for all Ohioans and all of the country to enjoy. This building is seen as a tribute to the people of Ohio because of the fact that it was built as a monument to not only our ideas, our beliefs in democracy, but the idea that this is a place where we will house our heritage as Ohioans, so the public can come and participate in the process and learn about the history of the state as well as the future of the state.